Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Nice to see you all. Hopefully you're jumping in. Nice to see you. Hi, Sharon. Hi, Alex. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Hi, Vanessa. How you going? Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to kick off the first day of the six-figure leap. Excited. And I'd love to just to kick things off, I'd love for you to jump in the chat and let me know what you do. Like, what is it that you actually do so that I can make sure that over the next few days, I make sure that it's really aligned to what it is that you're selling and what you're wanting to achieve with your six-figure year. So I know some of you, which is awesome. And I know a little bit about what you do. So I'd love just to, yeah, get a little bit to know you a little bit first as we're waiting for everyone to jump in. So excited to have you all here. And then I'm going to dive straight in because I am such a big believer of staying on time as best I can, but I want to give you my all. And so we want to make sure that we get started because there's a lot to cover. Awesome. Nice to see you, Caitlin. Thank you so much for joining us. Awesome. So we've got a midlife queen. I love that rebrand, Sharon. So good. Midlife queen. I love it. Helping women in midlife live their best chapter yet. Caitlin's a social media management manager for allied health professionals and expanding into health and wellness. Vanessa is marketing and admin for virtual assistants for creative entrepreneurs. Amazing. Interior designer. Hey, Alex. Zero
Hi.
bookkeeper specializing in training. Awesome. And here comes Amanda. Okay, amazing. So good. All right. So the six figure leap is all about teaching you how I went from 50K to 124K in 12 months and doing this with simple sales strategies with my existing offers at the time. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and how I did this because I want you to
Yeah.
learn to apply it to your story. All right. So as we start kicking things off, I just want to get a feel for the room of who we've got here. How do you currently feel about hitting six figures in this year? About in 2025. And you can be super honest, or if you want to avoid the question, that's okay. But just want to give me a bit of an idea with where you're at. Are you like doubtful? Like you're like, nah, it's probably not going to happen. Or B, are you like hoping, praying, wishing, got all the fingers crossed? Or you're like, I'm determined. I'm going to make this fucking happen this year. So you A, B, or C. I'd love if you could jump in the chat and let me know so I can get a feel because ideally, awesome. See, love that, Amanda. So good, determined, ready, pumped. Yes, so good, amazing. So I want whether you are A, B, A, B, A, and B. Okay, cool, awesome. Whether you are, love it, Vanessa, ready to make it happen. That's what I love to hear. I ideally, by the end of these 3 days, I want you to feel confident and I want you to feel like it's absolutely possible, right? That's what I sell. Like, that's what I want you to feel because it's so important that you have to believe it first. You have to believe that it's possible, that if it's been possible for me, it's possible for you. It's possible for other people, it's possible for you. And we want to make sure that we're setting ourselves up with the right mindset going into this. All right. So here's what we're covering off in today's session. So we're going to be talking about the common mistakes that I see a lot of women work with after working with so many women over the years, the common mistakes that I see that hold us back from consistent sales and learning how to authentically sell without overwhelming your audience or yourself. How I grew my income from 50K to 124, oops, I missed my four, 124K in 12 months, and how you can too. Modern sales techniques that will feel natural and aligned with your values. So no sleazy tactics. This is nothing about getting rich quick here, just proven strategies that convert clients with confidence and the messaging shifts that you need to apply today to create more sales and conversions throughout your business. Now, I'm so key, like when it comes to these sessions, if you've ever been a part of a masterclass with me before, and I know a few of you have, you know that I like to over deliver. I like to like give you everything if I possibly can, but honestly, it's hard to give you absolutely everything that I teach in 3 days. But I want to make these really actionable. So if you can make sure that you've got a pen and paper with you, it's honestly so worthwhile because there'll be certain activities I'm going to help you with today. So please set aside a pen and paper. And then day two, we're going to be talking more about the mindset and, you know, getting off that comparison wheel and money mindset blocks that keep us from hitting our six figures and how to package your services in a way that actually highlights the true value so you know how to sell it effectively. And then day three, we're going to talk about your strategic actionable plan about hitting six figures and set you up for success and the daily, monthly, and weekly activities you should be doing in your business in order to create that sustainability and to create consistent sales, because that's where it comes into play. Because a lot of the time, whenever I have clients I work with come to me and we look at everything that they're doing in their business and what they're working on, usually they're focusing on the things that aren't generating income. And so we need to get clear on what they are going to be for your business. All right. So to get the most out of these next 3 days, please, if you can, put away any other tabs that you're working on, put your phone on silent and be fully present here. You're going to get the most out of this because I'm going to give you a lot. And if you're distracted by 15 other things, you're probably not going to walk away with the things that you really need. Okay. So pop away any distractions, bring an open mind, grab a pen and paper and ask questions. I want these sessions to be interactive. Yeah. You're going to get more out of it if you're like, hey, Christine, I don't get that. How does that apply to my business or anything like that? Because it's really, really key that you allow yourself to learn as we go, right? Because otherwise, I don't want you to walk away from this going, oh, I'm just overwhelmed with everything and I didn't actually understand it for my business. Please ask the questions. And then secondly, do the actions, do the activities that I set with you today. So if you're watching the replay and you're like, I'm just going to scroll through this while I'm watching something else, or I'm going to just put it on double speed and I'm not really going to stop and do the activities, then you're most likely not going to get what you want out of this. All right. So when I get to the action points, if you can really be invested with that, that would be awesome because it'll actually help support you with what you want to achieve in your business this year. Sound good? Got your commitment? Amazing. Awesome. All right. So I'm also going to be sharing some prizes. So I've got some prizes up for grabs. So all I ask of you to win these prizes, and there's going to be 3 prizes, obviously 3 days. So there's going to be 3 prizes. The prizes are, you can either win a one-to-one coaching session with me, a 60-minute coaching session, which is valued at $650, access to one of my mini courses, which is a 7-day sales and money course to generate up to $6,000 in your income in your business within a couple of weeks. Or I'm going to post you out 2 of my favorite business books. And this is one of my new favorites. One of my friends wrote this book. Erica Kramer wrote this incredible book called Becoming Magnetic. So I'm going to give you a copy, not my copy. I'm going to actually send you a real a brand new copy, hardcover to your house. So you get to choose depending on who wins. So those are the 3 prizes up for grabs. And all you have to do is either screenshot something that you see that you love and share it and tag me in it on socials, or just share. I love that you started reading that, Caitlin. Awesome. Or just share your takeaway. Share your biggest takeaway either in a post or a story or anything like that on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and tag me in it so I can see it. And that way, then I will then jump on and choose a winner. Awesome. Sound good? Because I want to reward you for spending this time with me. Awesome. So let's do this. You're in the right place if you've got big dreams and you want to grow and scale your business for more freedom and flexibility, that you're great at what you do and you just need to convert more clients to have consistent income, that if you want to work smarter rather than harder and want to start making the money that you deserve. After these 3 days, ideally, what I would love for you to walk away with is that you'll know what's preventing you from converting more consistently in your business and what to do about it. You'll have the clarity as to what's prevented you from hitting 6 figures in the past, so you know how to avoid those mistakes. And then lastly, you'll have that awakened, that inner CEO that I know that you can be, to have a clear plan on how to hit 6 figures so you know exactly what to do after these 3 days. So for those of you who I've never met before, my name is Christine Corcoran and I'm a business mindset coach and high ticket sales strategist. And over the last 7 years, I've been working with one-to-one and group programs within my cohorts of beautiful clients that I get to work with women in business, mainly in the service-based business area. So everything today in the next 3 days I'm going to be teaching is really focused on service-based because that's what I come from. I spent 6.5 years in corporate sales with a global company and we worked on a lot of business development. So we were helping business owners really work on the strategy to grow their businesses. And what I discovered through that, there was a lot of mindset stuff that was missing. So in that, I got obsessed with mindset. I started studying human behavior, neuroscience, and coaching to uncover what holds us back. So now I blend the strategy with the mindset because that's what is the secret sauce, right? You've got to have the right mindset and you've got to have a great strategy in order for you to implement that strategy. You have to have the right mindset. So it all works in together. And so after doing I was in corporate. I then stepped away, built up my business alongside my corporate job, and then stepped away when I had enough income to cover my mortgage because I was not someone that was like, I've got to leap. I needed to pay my mortgage. So I wanted to make sure that I had some good money coming in before I did that. And then I got to the point where I really wanted to grow it. So but I also want to share my story. And from that perspective of like, I was not an overnight success. And I was literally sharing this with a client this morning that I did not hit 6 figures in my first year. My first year, I was scrambling with like, what do I even want to do? Like, who do I want to work with? And what do I want to coach on? And what's my niche? Like, I was so stuck in all of that because I dived into the online space and was literally unsure. I had been burnt out from corporate. So I actually was like, I'm not really sure if I want to work with business owners and do business coaching. That was my first 6 to 12 months of my business. And I was doing a lot of life coaching. But then what I found happened was that I started actually helping more and more people with business and had more and more clients coming to me for business. And I was like lit up by it. I was so excited by it. And I started teaching sales. And I recognized that sales was one of the things that I really loved teaching on. And so then I started to really niche. And that's where things started to shift and change. And I'm going to talk to you about the exact things that I did to start growing my income. But there was a moment in my third year of business where I was like, that's where I actually had my second year hit 50K for the year. And going into my third, I was like, I can't do this again. I have to have really good money coming through. I don't want to have to go back to a 9 to 5. I had a moment where I had a really shit December, a really crap January, and had to actually ask my parents to cover my mortgage repayment. And I was like, humiliated. I was like, this is so shit. I don't want to do this again. I felt so like I felt like a failure. I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Like I should be good at this. Like maybe I'm not cut out for business. Like I had all the doubts. But at that moment, when I received that money from my parents, thank God they were able to do that. But at that moment, I made the decision that I was like, this is it. I'm going to make this business work. I'm going to give it my all. I am going to draw that line in the sand. And I made that decision so strongly with myself that I was like, I need to focus on what is going to move the needle in my business. I can't get caught up in all the Instagram gurus telling me 20, 50 things. I can't get caught up in the coaching industry with all the stuff that's happening over there. I've just got to be tunnel vision, focus on who I want to work with, and start doing the do. And so it was that decision that changed everything for me. And that's where I went from 50K to 124K within 12 months with specific strategies that I put in place and a mindset to get me there. So that's what I'm going to teach you over the next 3 days. So I'd love to know, just like with a show of hands, like, is that where you're at right now? Are you like at that decision where you're like, I'm making this fucking work, right? Have I made that decision with yourself? Are you still oscillating between like, maybe I'll go get a job? Like, are you still scrolling job sites? Like anything like that is, if it's showing up for you, I want you to know, like, you're not alone. We all go through moments like that, but also there has to be a decision. There has to be a decision when you go all in on your business, right? That it can't be a hobby anymore. It can't be one of those things that's like, oh, when I feel like it, I'll do it. Or when I get to it. No, it has to be a decision of like, I'm going to make this fucking work. Yeah. So let today be that decision. Let that be the line in the sand that you draw. So at that time I went, and I was just also just want to clarify, I was only doing one-to-one services. So I didn't have groups the way that I do now. I didn't actually have a mastermind the way that I do now. And I hadn't been selling necessarily anything or courses or anything like that. It was one-to-one. Okay. So Sharon said, I made the decision as I dropped a 6-figure corporate contract to focus on my new niche. Ooh, that's a line in the sand. That's like, holy fuck, I got to do this. So good, Sharon. So good. So yeah, highlighting that I didn't do it with programs and courses and stuff. It was just my one-to-one services. And so there were certain things that I focused on, but what I didn't do, I didn't add more services. I got really clear on what I was offering. I did not use any icky tactics like cold DMs or buying fake followers or doing anything that just felt yuck, because your intuition as a woman, if your intuition's like, I can't fucking do this, I don't want to do that, that feels gross, then don't do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to be conscious of like, it's got to feel good, and your intuition is telling you don't sell in a gross way, because no one likes to also be sold like that either. So I'm not going to share anything like that where I'm going to tell you to send 15 DMs to people you don't know, nothing like that. I did not sell my soul to the devil. I did not work 24/7 all through my weekends, and I did not spend thousands on Facebook ads. I actually didn't spend any money on Facebook ads until I think I got to my third year, where I started running events and I was selling tickets to events. And I think I was probably 6 months into running events before I started doing ads, because I just didn't have the income and I didn't want to spend money on ads, right? So I just want to be clear on that, because often when you get on anything like this, like sometimes there's the lack of truth out there that they actually hit 6 figures in that first year because they spent a lot of money on Facebook ads, which is a viable way to grow your business. I'm not saying, don't do that. You absolutely can do that. But I just want you to see that it's not, you don't have to, because in that first period of your business, you're going through the messy stages of figuring out what your niche is and what's going to work and what's not going to work for your ideal client. And so I didn't do any of that. I just focused on specific, simple sales strategies that actually work with every human being. So what I did work on, though, was my mindset. I needed to believe in the value of what I was offering, right? Without that, it was very uncomfortable to sell. Or very uncomfortable to sell a package if you don't believe in it. I got clear on my niche and niche down. I had, and let me know if you've had these fears as well, of like hearing other people talk about niche and getting confused with like, but how do I niche? And also like, But what if I niche and I miss out on people that really want to work with me? And so I was really stuck on the niching piece as well. I worked on improving my messaging so then it really landed with my ideal clients. I showed up consistently. I made that line in the sand. I started making consistent podcasts every single week. I showed up consistently on my stories. I posted regularly to show that I could be reliable and trustworthy and that I was available for working with. I stopped accepting less than I deserved. This was a really interesting one. I'm going to dive into this a little bit more because when we keep accepting what we're less than we deserve, we keep telling the universe that that's what we're available for. And then we just keep getting the same stuff. Whereas that line in the sand energy is that go all in energy does start to shift, but that's where you shift, right? You change the way that you're acting and the way that you're showing up. I really worked on my sales strategy, improved my sales strategy because it was what I knew, right? I came from corporate, I knew sales, and I knew that I needed to implement a really good sales strategy. I prioritized consistent sales activities. And this is something that I teach all the time because without the consistency of the way that where you're spending your time, the sales don't come in. We can't just rely on social media. And I took messy action because through it all, you get clearer. You get clearer on who you work with and who you don't work with. You get clearer on what your message is compared to other people's message. You get clear on what you love talking about and how you love servicing people. Like we need to get clear on that. And the only way that we do that is through taking messy action. And I think some people just get so caught up in thinking it has to be perfect. Whereas I took messy action that was nowhere near perfect. And I remember like one of my first videos that I put out on social media, and I was so nervous about it. And I put it out and I got a comment. There was a really negative comment. And I think it's actually the only negative comment I've ever actually gotten in my career so far, in my business so far. But I got a really negative comment and it was so funny. Like I messaged it to a friend of mine and I was like, they're so right. Like they were dissing my video. And I was like, it is crap. But you have to be okay with being shit before you can create greatness, right? You've got to be willing to put yourself out there and create the posts that don't look great or that don't make sense in order for you to get clearer on that. So some of the stuff that I think that we get caught up on is stuff that we're trying to get perfect when really it's just through the messy action that we've got to learn. So over the last 7 years, I've coached hundreds of women in business through these common mistakes I'm going to share with you now when it comes to hitting six figures and creating consistent income. So I want you just to identify if there's any of these that show up for you. And I'd love for you to just jump in the chat and let me know if you're like, yep, this is me. Nah, not me. Okay. All right. So first one is prioritizing client work over working on your business. So when I say working on your business, I mean like doing the most important things to move the needle in your business. Now, as service-based business owners, the client work is important. I get that. It's how you make money, right? And it's how you take care of your clients, which is very important. But if we're prioritizing it as a whole over working on your business, that's where we get to the point where you're, a month or two into working with clients and then they're about to finish up with you. And then you're like, fuck, where's my next one going to come from? That's where we get stuck. And that's because we need to start treating our business just as important as a paying client. So allocating time in your calendar where you're like, this is where I'm working on the growth of my business. This is where I'm working on sales activities that will help generate long-term income, right? And so it's one of the biggest mistakes that I see. And I'm not saying don't prioritize client work. 100% you need to do that. But you need to also build the balance of client work and working on your business, right? So first things first, if you haven't allocated time in your diary in the next couple of weeks to work on your business, please do so today. Allocate it, block it out. Be like, this is where I'm working on my business. And then on day 3, we're going to get clear on what you should be doing in that time frame. Okay. Number 2, doubting yourself or the value of your offer. So this is where we can get super stuck in not knowing whether people will pay it, doubting whether it's even really worth that, doubting your pricing, and that's then preventing you from not showing up and confidently selling it, right? So let me know if number 2 is one that shows up for you. Number 3, selling too much instead of solving and serving. Okay, so sometimes this happens where I have clients come to me and when I look at everything that they're doing within their business, they're actually like selling a lot. So they're like, buy from me, book a call, do all these things. Like all the calls to actions are really strong and they just sell instead of actually nurturing and solving a client's problem before we ask them to buy. And so we're almost like exhausting our audience. And then the audience recognizes like, oh, this person just sells. That's all they do. They just sell all the time. I'm not really getting any value from them because they're just telling me to buy. So we want to be conscious of that because sometimes that can show up. And so when we are doing that, we want to then learn a better strategy because we want to nurture and we want to show the value of working with us before asking people to pay for it. Okay. And so this is where like so much has changed in the last few years where we need to actually really highlight that how am I really solving a client's problems? Because if I'm asking them to pay for it before I've shown and proven the value of what it is that I do, then we could be really leaving a lot of money on the table. And so it sometimes goes both ways too. So sometimes we're spending too much time solving and serving and not enough time selling, or other times we're selling too much and not solving at all. Yeah. So highlighting this is like acknowledging like how do I build the balance into the business so that it serves the growth of the business, because you do need to be selling at some point. So we want to like which end of the spectrum am I on? Am I not selling at all, or am I selling too much? Okay, Sharon said, okay, so number one, so putting clients first instead of sales tasks, she's identified as one of the main ones. Okay, common mistake number four, again, I just was highlighting this, not selling at all. So if we're spending so much time marketing, but we're not actually selling and focusing on conversion, because there is a difference. Marketing is not sales and sales is not marketing. Okay. Marketing is how we get more eyes on our business. So we're showing people that we're available to work with. We're highlighting how we work with people, and we're creating relatability and connection. So then people are like, oh, I'm kind of interested in that. And sales is taking those eyes, nurturing them to the consideration phase before we then ask them to buy, right? And if we don't have anything at that bottom end of the funnel where we're actually converting clients, then we're leaving heaps of money on the table. Okay. I've been stuck in that trap before. So please know, like wherever you're at in that space, please don't judge yourself. Like one of the biggest things you'll learn from me is like, there's no place for judgment. We want to be curious and have an open mind and learn through it so then we can make the changes. Okay. So nurturing yourself through that and be like, it's okay. If I recognize it, great. If I'm like, oh, I have been doing heaps of marketing, but not doing any selling, great. We've got some areas there where we can improve, which is awesome. Okay. Selling too many things and confusing your audience. Sometimes if we're chopping and changing our offers all the time, if we're chopping and changing our messaging too soon, too often, if we're literally selling one thing one day and another thing the next day, or, do you know what I mean? Like within a week, we're selling 2 or 3 things. It's so confusing for your audience, and they just don't know what to do. And a confused buyer never buys. Okay. So I want to be conscious of like, what am I actually selling? And we're going to get into this in more depth. And am I selling just too often? Am I selling too many things at once? Okay. Common mistake number 7, selling with passion over following a sales process. So if this doesn't make sense, let me clarify. So when we're selling with passion, this is what we do when we first start our business. We're like excited about what it is that we do. We love what we do, and we're selling the excitement. We're selling the passion of like, I'm super passionate about it. I love it. It's so good. And we're not actually following a sales process. So we're too focused on ourselves, and we're trying to sell through excitement instead of selling focused on a process and value. So if we're not following a sales process, is where we can leave a lot of money on the table, because we're just like hoping, wishing, and praying and being like, we're passionate, we're excited, come and work with me. But the client's still sitting there going, I'm not really sure how that's going to benefit me, or I'm not really sure if that's even the right thing for me, or like, I have so many questions, but you're not answering any of them. So I'm just going to scroll on. So if we're not following a sales process, we can be leaving a lot of money on the table. I even think back to a client of mine that I worked with last round of my sales program, and we identified that in her sales calls, she was serving and coaching too much. So she was actually trying to help the client so much that she actually never really got to the sales process. And so we put a sales process in place for her, and she was able to convert really fast because she was like, oh, I'm giving away too much. So once we have a sales process in place, it makes it much easier and more comfortable for the client, but also you actually know what to do next in order to convert a client. So selling with passion over a sales process. So the next phases, or the areas that I focused on, right, is what we're going to clarify on today, is how I went from 50K to 124K in 12 months was getting really clear on who I was selling to and not trying to sell to many different people. So getting super clear on the niche, right? And not trying to sell to everyone, getting really clear on who I really wanted to work with. Believing that it's possible, doing the numbers. You've got to do the math. If you haven't done the math, then you could be setting yourself up to fail and judging yourself that it's not working because you haven't done the math, which we're going to do tomorrow. Knowing what you're actually selling, right? Sales, again, is not marketing. So when you know what you're actually selling, it's much easier to sell, and prioritizing consistent sales activities. Okay. So it's where we shift from, if we're using social media to sell, we want to go like, who am I really talking to? And how can I just narrow in on who I'm talking to and just keep talking to them and solving and serving them? Because we want to solve and serve before we go anywhere near selling. if it's in my mindset, am I blocking myself because I actually don't think it's really possible? So I'm showing up with the attitude that like, oh, I'm doing these things because I think I have to, but it's not really going to get me anywhere. Have I done the math? Have I looked at my numbers? Am I avoiding my numbers? Because sometimes that's actually the block that's keeping us stuck. Am I unclear with what I'm actually even selling? Like, what do I sell? And this is where so many people get stuck. They get stuck selling inclusions or selling time instead of actually selling what they're really selling. All right. So let's get into some action pieces. So the first one I want to highlight here is niching. Who here feels like they're really comfortable with their niche? The show of hands or a yes in the chat. Okay, cool. We've got a couple of yeses, a couple of unshores. Okay. So there's so many fears that come along with niching, not just scarcity fears, because when we get stuck in scarcity fears, we're like, oh, but if I niche, I'm cutting out a whole bunch of people that could possibly want to work with me and spend money with me. So then I'm going to lose money. But we end up then talking to no one because we're trying to talk to everyone. And so then no one knows that you're the right fit to work with. So choosing a niche doesn't also have to be something that you shout from the rooftops either. It's just firstly getting your marketing dialed in so then you know exactly who you're talking to. So then your marketing actually starts to land, right? So when we dial it in, it allows us to get really clear on the language that we need to use in order to talk to our ideal client, the problems that they're experiencing and how we can serve and solve for them right then and there. And then they're like, yes, oh my God, I've gotten so much value from this. I now want to work with this person. So we need to step away from fearing that if I niche, it's going to cost us or it's going to leave us with less. It's not the case. It's the complete opposite. When you do niche, it makes everything so much easier. It makes every topic that you want to talk about so much easier. It makes your content easier. Like it's just so much easier. And I just want to highlight a couple of things. There are so many different ways to niche. You don't have to niche. And when I'm talking about this, like it's getting to know your avatar, your ideal client so well that you can describe the problem they're experiencing that you solve in a way that they are like, how the hell do you know this? How do you get this so much? Right? They need to feel so seen and heard in the way that you describe the problem that they're like, that's the person to work with. Okay. So you can niche through so many different ways. It doesn't have to be demographics. It can be through values. It can be through a problem, right? So figuring out like, how do you want to pinpoint who you really want to work with and start just focusing there. And then I would suggest you just niche for 90 days and see what happens. Because of the other fear that comes into play of like, oh, but if I choose one niche, what if I want to change it? Or what if I change my mind in 6 months' time? It's okay. It's your business. You can absolutely do that. But if you want to speed up the process and make more money in your business, choosing one niche to work with to then be known as someone that works with that type of person or with that specific problem, then it's much easier for other people to refer you. It makes everything so much easier. So once you then niche and just do it for 90 days, like honestly, 90 days is one, if you focus on a message shift or a offer that you sell or a specific niche, you'll become known as the expert in that area if you just do it consistently for 90 days. So trust me, do it for 90 days and I guarantee you at the end of that, you'll have so much data to determine whether it worked or whether it didn't work and what needs to change. And you'll start to see things work, right? Honestly, this is where I like dialed in. I was like, I really want to work with female founders that are stuck, that really want to make more money, that they're stuck with feeling uncomfortable. They're probably undercharging, over delivering, over servicing, frustrated with things not going so quickly. They feel like they're behind. I want them to have more, they feel they really want to have a lot more freedom and more impact. They want to have a business that lights them up and they're excited about like wanted to get super clear with exactly who I really wanted to work with. And then I could pinpoint how I'm going to talk to her, right? That's what shifted everything for me. And then the other piece of my niche was like, I'm going to start talking more about business mindset because I didn't want to be a business coach as such, because like there's so many business coaches, but what makes me different was the mindset piece and the sales piece. So I had to bring that into my messaging, which we're going to talk to in a minute. So like figuring out like what is your secret sauce and how can you bring that into your niche, because that's what's going to make you stand out. All right. Is this resonating? Is this good? Good. Okay. Awesome. Again, questions. If you have any, please jump into the chat and ask away. All right. I had to step away from time versus money. You're not ever selling time. People don't buy time. So if you're selling time, it's probably where you're getting stuck with your sales messaging. No one buys time, they buy results. Okay. Even with so many VAs that I've worked with, OBMs, like when we shift away from going, I'm selling time, this is where the things start to shift and change for them, because they're like, oh, but no, I sell time. It's what people buy. And I'm like, no, it's not. They're not buying time. So we've got to shift away from time, but we also need to shift away from selling time for money, right? Because if you're stuck in that trap, it causes so much frustration and it just keeps you stuck at one income level because you've only got so much time to sell. So we want to shift away from time. We want to focus on deliverables or outcomes, results, transformation. All right. And we're going to get clear on this. So if you're selling time, so what I mean by that is if people are asking you how they work with you and you're like, oh, I can do this many sessions, or I can give you 30 minutes of my time, or you can pick my brain, like anything like that, people are going to be like, oh, okay, great, but most likely not convert, because that's not what they're actually wanting, right? We've got to get clear on what you're actually selling. And when we sell what you're actually selling, people are like, give me that. I want that. Yeah. It makes it an easier decision for them to say yes. Next, we have to have a plan and stick to it. Without a plan, you're more likely going to get caught with a shiny thing syndrome and just get caught up doing all the things that you've always done and getting the same results, or getting caught back in just doing client work because that's where you feel confident. So sometimes we have to get a little bit uncomfortable to learn the new skill, right? Learning sales is a skill, and we're going to talk about the sales process in a minute. But like, if you're just doing the same thing and expecting different results, you're kidding yourself. Like, it's got to be worth trying new things. And I was chatting to a client about this morning, and how much we need to pivot in business. Like, we're always pivoting because we've got to work with what's happening in the market. We've got to work with sales psychology because our customers are getting much more savvy and aware, right? So we've got to be conscious that we're talking to humans and not just trying to sell. And so there's so many elements here where we get so stuck in just doing what we've always done, and then we get the same results and get frustrated that nothing's changed. We've got to be willing to step outside of our comfort zone and do something a little bit different. All right. So what are we actually selling? So what I'd love for you to do, this is the first action step. So grab your pen and paper. I want you to write down what you do, right? You know what you do. Now, I want you to write down, what do you think you're actually selling? What are you selling? And there's no judgment here, because I want you to get clear with this. So feel free to pop it in the chat so I can help support you with this. What do you currently think that you're selling? If anyone is brave and wants to put your mic on and tell me, I'd love that. So what do you think you're selling?
Hi, Christine. This is Yvette. I think I'm selling coaching one-on-one.
Yeah.
It's okay, like I have been struggling for so long to prepare my packages. And when you said about people buy results, no time, it's like, oh, what is the result? So I'm stuck in there. So yeah, so
Oh,
one-on-one, I could say.
thank you, Giselle. Honestly, thank you so much for having the bravery to and the courage to ask, because it makes this, honestly, I love interacting and engaging and coaching. So, Giselle, I know she's a relationship coach. And so we think that, right? We think, oh, I'm selling a coaching package, or I'm selling coaching, one-to-one coaching, but that's actually not what people are buying. Okay. So when it comes to relationship coaching, what you're actually selling is a happy and healthy relationship, right? Does that make sense? So if we're not promoting that, like this is what they really truly want, that's what you're actually selling. You're selling the outcome. Now, part of that you can't fully control, right? So this is where people get really stuck, and this is what we're going to explore here. So I want you to pinpoint like what you're actually selling. Now, sometimes it can be an emotion, sometimes it can be an outcome or a result, but I want you to pinpoint what that is. And if please feel free to throw it in the chat. What are you actually selling? Come on, don't be scared. I'm not going to judge you. I want you to get clear. So then, like, if you're going out there and be like, hey, you can work with me one-to-one as a coach, people are like, yeah, but what is that going to give me? Right? There still creates a lot of questions. But it's like, if you're sick of being single, if you're sick of like being or attracting toxic partners that really aren't giving you the relationship that you really want to live and the experience, then this is the time. This is what coaching solves. So we want to get to the point where we're actually clear on what we're actually selling. So they're not selling one-to-one coaching. We're selling what the coaching will give them. Okay. So will that give them confidence to date? Will that give them confidence to be able to own their value in a relationship and be able to set really beautiful boundaries and create a healthy relationship? Like, what is it that you're actually selling? All right.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for the noise. So my ideal client is in a relationship, but she is not happy and struggling, like making everything like trying to make it work,
Mhm.
but it's not working at all.
Okay.
So I want to focus in to that client who is suffering in order to get out of that relationship, to heal herself, and then to be ready to start a new relationship.
Okay. So what's the transformation that you're creating there? So once they are out and then they're confident to then start dating again, like are you giving them the confidence within themselves? Are you giving them like that they truly value their own the way who they are as a person so then they feel confident attracting the right partner? Do you know what I mean? Like we just want to get that next step of clarity of like, well, what's that going to give them? So what's the outcome they're going to get?
Clarity in what in
They
the
want.
men that they want,
Yep.
and as well confidence with themselves, and
Yep.
not struggling in a new relationship again. How like a no codependency, no attachment styles. You know, it's like secure attachment style and interdependence.
Yes. So good. So this is so normal. So I just want to use this as an example. So if everyone's listening, what we get caught up in is like, oh, this is what they don't want, right? So these are all the problems. This is what they're possibly experiencing, which is great. I want you to, as the marketer, as the person who's selling, to get clear on like, but then what's the opposite of that? So yeah, they might like want to avoid another codependent relationship or a toxic relationship. But then the opposite of that is that they want to feel so at home with who they are as a person. They want to own their value and their worth. They want to feel confident within themselves. They want to be like, I'm fucking amazing. And I get to choose whether I want to let someone into my life. Right. And I'm going to be okay with finding the right person and not be stuck in the loneliness pit of like, oh, poor me, there's no man. Right. Like, what is that outcome that you're wanting them to feel and experience? So I want you to think about that as we go through this. So, and I'm going to give you like stages so everyone can like, I want you to walk away feeling a little bit more confident with like one, what you're actually selling and like, how do I describe that? Okay. So what's the transformation? What's the result and the outcome? People get too focused on selling the inclusions instead of actually selling the outcome and the results that people really do buy. So with all the different types of businesses that we have here, there's going to be different results that you all create. And my chat is playing up here. Hang on. Okay. So there we go. All right. So Amanda said confidence and trusting yourself. Love that. A freedom lifestyle. Love that, Sharon. So good. Sarah said confidence and empowerment in their finances. Oh, what's that going to give them? I would take that one step further, Sarah. Confidence and empowerment in their finances to be able to what? What's that outcome? Caitlin said a skill set that takes time, education, and patience to learn. The result is brand awareness and the potential to have to turn qualified leads into booked out clientele. Yes. So that last two piece, the qualified leads and the booked out clientele is exactly what you're selling, right? Which then gives them a almost like a true sense of like, oh, it's working, that I feel like calm or in control. Like there's probably something there emotionally there as well that you're selling there. Because yeah, people, it's the same thing with like learning or skill sets and education. It's the same thing with courses and stuff. People are not buying to learn something. They're buying something that what the learning will give them. So you just want to take it to that next step of like, what's that outcome? What's that result? Okay. So just to give you a bit of an idea, let's take it one step further and go, well, what's the transformation that you create for a customer? Now, as I go through this, you may not fully know this, but I would love for you to walk away from today's session and go find out because you can either go back and ask past clients, right? Or you can do a bit of market research to figure this out. So let's start with before. So I want you to write down your piece of paper before. What's the transformation that you create? So where are they before? What are the problems that your customer is experiencing? Start there. So just write down one or two things. What's the problem that they're currently experiencing that identifies that they need you? Okay. Then we want to highlight, still in the same place in the before, what is the lack of result or what's the outcome that they're really desiring that they don't have? Let me know if anyone's stuck with this, because then you can tell me what your business is and I can give you some ideas if that's already a challenge. What's the problems? And the more you can tap into exactly what's happening for them in their everyday lives, it highlights that, like, the symptoms is another way to put it. Like, what are the symptoms that are showing up in their lives that highlight to you that they have the problem that you can help them with? Okay. Let me know, just pop done in the chat so that I know to move on to the next bit. Okay, cool. Alex, can you tell me again what you do? Sorry, let me just scroll up and interior designer? Yes, interior designer. Okay, cool. So the problem that you love to help them clients with, right? Is it like a lack of functionality? Is it house or commercial? Commercial. Yeah. So what's the problem that identifies that they really need you? Is it like a lack of functionality? Is it that actually their office spaces don't represent the ideal clients they really want to work with? Is it that it's like I'm trying to like pinpoint what commercial problems would be. um, so is it that like the visually it doesn't look as pleasing, so it's not actually attracting the right customers? Like what's the problem that makes you like, usually someone will get on the phone with you and you'll be like, and they'll say something and you'll be like, yeah, that's, I can absolutely help with that. What's that thing that they're identifying? Does that help? Cool. Amazing. Awesome. Anyone else? Caitlin said, not consistent in money, marketing, and clients. Yep, 100%. So they're so stuck, they're not sure what the hell to bloody post. Yeah, awesome. If I mean, that could be anyone, but yes, it's definitely your ideal client. Amazing. So then during the middle piece is how you helped them. Like, what did you work on specifically that helped solve the problem? So this is where sometimes people get stuck and they go, oh, I coached them or I fixed their interior design. Like what? No, it was specific things that you highlighted that you helped them with. Like, did you give them a strategy? Did you help them stop emotionally eating? Did you figure out like where the gaps were in their business? Did you figure out like the problems that were causing the health issues? Like what specifically did you work on in the during that was the secret sauce that made all the difference? So I want you to write down a couple of things. Like with yours, Sharon, like as a midlife queen, like did you identify like, well, we figured out what their true values were and what was important to them in their next chapter of life? Did they identify that they were like didn't even know what their hobbies were anymore? Like what was happening for them? Did you actually shift parts of their mindset to start to identify who they wanted to be in the future? Did you actually help them create a future plan? Like figuring out like what is that during piece? And then the last part there is what was the outcome and result? So once you finish working with someone, what transformation happened? So what did they get? What was the result? What was the outcome? So sometimes we'll go, they no longer had this, but we want to go to what did that give them? Did it create confidence in their ability to date? Did it give them confidence in their ability to know exactly what to post on what days? And then they got so excited because new clients were coming through. Did it like was the result that they were having people reach out to them for business? Like, do you know what I mean? Like go to that last piece. So did that, and so for yours, Alex, if you've never explored it further with a past client, maybe you need to go back and do that. So be like, so once you then transformed their spaces, what did that give them? Were they excited every time they walked into the space? Did they have new employees come and want to work for them because it actually was a beautiful space to work in? Did it attract high value, talented people? Did it attract the right customers? Like there would be a specific outcome that your work would have done for them, right? This is so key, right, ladies? And I'm so glad like this, I can see the wheels turning as you're like trying to figure this out, which is so good. So we want to get really clear on the outcome because a lot of the time we're focused so much on the problems and what we're actually serving on what the solution is or what we're selling, when really what you're really selling is the outcome. People want the result, right? They don't want the time. So Sharon said, I'm happier, healthier, better relationships, fulfilled, and felt valued and sexy. Oh, love that. So good. So to see how like that's that piece of like, okay, so before she was feeling like, probably frumpy or like she really didn't have much of a purpose in life, or she was just like kind of stuck with like, what is my next purpose? What is my next chapter? Stuck in confusion. And so now the transformation is like now she feels happier, healthier, has better relationships, feels more fulfilled, feels valued in her relationships and in her life, and feeling sexy. Like that's a beautiful outcome. Yeah. So the more that you can spend time on clarifying what that result and outcome is. Now, sometimes we actually need to go back and uncover the long-term impact that our work has had with the client. So if you haven't done that in a while, I would go back and touch base with the client that you worked with 6 months ago, 12 months ago, and be like, and ask some really key questions to be like, what impact did our work have on your life now? Right? What are you noticing? What's changed? What wouldn't have been possible if we didn't work together? To uncover exactly what's happening for them. So then you can utilize that in your marketing and your sales. Because when someone's selling to you, for instance, if you've been in the situation where you were looking at buying something and you were like, this is a problem that I'm having, this is it, blah, blah, blah. And the clients and the person who's selling to you said, yeah, I can help with that. How much of that can you trust with just that response? You'd be like, okay, great. But how do you know for sure? If that person was explaining that this is a transformation that I've created for a past client, and you resonated with that and you're like, I want that too, you feel much more confident and certain in that purchase, right? And that's why people use testimonials and case studies and all of that on social media, because it actually builds credibility that you can actually deliver on the outcome that you're promising. But we often get stuck in not actually knowing what we're selling. And so we're just focused on the problem. We're just focused on what we're selling, which is like one-to-one sessions or this many hours, or you get access to Pick My Brain, or you get this plan. But what does that give them? Yeah. The more we can get clear on what it gives them, that's where it starts to change. So what we just uncovered is the problem, the solution, and the outcome. Now that we can uncover this, this is also how you can use this across everything that you sell. Everything. In your social media posts, in your stories, if you highlight the problem, so that's more relatable for a customer to highlight the problem. Now, another way to do that would be a desire. So let me give you an example, okay? So a problem most of my ideal clients experience is inconsistent sales, a lack of sales skills. So they're literally like, I'm so stuck, I'm confused, I don't even know what to say next on a sales call. I don't really even have a strategy in place. I'm just winging it, right? So that's the problems that are showing up. So the solution is a sales strategy and the accountability and support to implement it, right? That's how I help clients. I give them a sales strategy, I give them the sales skills, and then I give them the accountability to help implement it. The outcome is consistent income, clients converting consistently, financial freedom and feeling successful, feeling like they're like, oh, I can actually do this. My business is viable. And now I can create this like longevity of my business and it's sustainable. So I can feel like I don't have to go back to a 9-to-5 job, right? So I just wanted to give you a basic kind of, I could go into that in much more depth, but the more that you could articulate these three core pieces and identify here too, like I want you to see, nowhere here did I ever say coaching. Okay. I just want to highlight this. Nowhere here did I ever say coaching, because people don't buy coaching, they buy what coaching will give them. They buy the results that coaching will give them. Okay. So the more that you can highlight this within your marketing, within your sales messaging, within your sales conversations, the easier it is for a client to see themselves in this. Yes, I have this problem. Yes, I want the solution. I 100% want that outcome. They need to see that in order for it to convert. Is this resonating? Awesome. What questions do you have so far? Any questions, anyone? Now, if any of this feels overwhelming, I just want you to know that that's also normal if it's a new concept to you. Okay. It's normal for us to feel a little bit overwhelmed when our brain's like, it's okay, but it's a new concept. So you want to allow yourself to give yourself space to let it digest. And so we've got a recording, you can always watch it back. All right. So let me give you another example. So a transformation that could be from before, she was thinking, I'm just not cut out for business. She was scrolling job sites, fearing that this will never work out, and most likely serving her own clients well and loving what she's doing, as in the service that she delivers. But she was just so stuck with the inconsistent income, right? During working with her, she got to the point where she started to believe that it was possible, that she could make consistent income in a business, she started to notice the development of her sales skills. She felt more confident in her sales conversations. She felt more confident promoting herself and putting herself out there. Then afterwards, She felt promoting herself was easy, right? She felt she was following a plan that was creating predictable income in her business. She felt in control of her income, in control of her business. Sales were flowing in. She was excited for her future. And now she's even thinking bigger. That's what I love to create with my ideal clients, right? That they actually get to the point of like they're coming in doubting it, thinking it's not even going to work for them. And then they come out of the time working together and they're like, I absolutely believe this is possible and I can see it's already possible because it's happening. Right? That's what makes me so excited. Then they start to actually create bigger goals and they start to even think even bigger. Right. So, what's your transformation for your clients? If you can try to pinpoint this and tell it using story, to use it, blah, blah, use it with storytelling, it helps a client be like, yeah, that's me. I resonate with that problem. Oh, I want to feel that. I want to notice that the sales skills are working. I don't want to feel uncomfortable and awkward when having conversations about sales. And I recognize that maybe I suck at sales because I've never learned it before. And then they're like, well, I really want to feel like things are easy. I want to feel like I have a predictable plan in place. I want to feel in control. I want to see the sales flowing in. I want to be excited for my future. So people start resonating with it and they're like, oh, I see now how your solution can get me there. Okay. I want you to start playing with this in any of your marketing and your messaging. So, actually, before I dive into sales messaging, I just want to highlight this one piece. When it comes to the outcome and results, there is time in our business sometimes where we're not 100% confident in promising those results. So, when doing this with any of my clients, this is often a mindset block that comes up if they're not 100% sure they can promise it. Now, in some services, the reason why you feel like that is because it's not all up to you to deliver it, right? So I can coach someone, I can give someone a strategy, I can teach them the sales process, I can work through their mindset blocks. But at the end of the day, for them to get the results, they have to do the action. Yeah. So some of your clients might be the same, that you're like, well, I can give them what they need, but they have to do it. And so it feels uncomfortable going, well, how can I promise that if I'm not really sure if they're going to take the action? What you've got to come back to is knowing, and if you've proven it in the past with past clients, where like the clients that did take the action, they got those results, then you can own that, right? Like I have actually helped clients create 10K months in their businesses with my strategy, with my methods, and I've seen that work, right? And yes, I've had clients that haven't actually achieved that result because they haven't taken action on the things that I've set for them, right? So that's always going to happen because we're working with human beings. And so I can do that and I can get great results. And I know that if you follow my process, you will create 10K months in your business. I absolutely believe that 100%, right? And so the only way that I got to that point of believing it and feeling confident in it was with putting into practice and seeing that happen with a client so I can actually see the results, right? So, and I needed to go back and ask for that information, right? So if you've worked with a client and then they go and achieve that result maybe a month or two after you've worked with them and you don't know that because I haven't told you, then it might feel really uncomfortable to promise that. So it's figuring out like, what can I be confident in the way that I promise my results and outcomes? Because I want you to feel confident doing that, because if you're not confident in sharing that, you can tweak your messaging so then it actually does speak to what you feel confident in promising, because you have to be confident going out there and selling it. Otherwise, people feel your uncertainty and then they won't buy. Okay. So whatever that feels like for you, go back and get the information from past clients, and then you feel confident being able to promise, like, yes, I can do this for you. Yes, we can work together. And I always say this with my coaching clients, like, yes, you will absolutely achieve this if you follow this result. And if you follow this strategy and put this into practice and we work together to achieve that. Now, business is not fully predictable until the point you put in a strategy. But I always say to a client, but you've got to take the action, right? I can be here to support you. I can show up and help you every step of the way. I can give you the exact strategy to put into place, but you've got to take the action. So if you're in, I'm in. Yeah. So sometimes you've got to just be communicating that piece as well, depending on your type of service. All right. All right. So your messaging needs to shift to stop talking about inclusions, time, or fancy bonuses and start talking about the transformation, the results that you create. People buy results, not time or inclusions. So if you just take one thing away from these 3 days and put this into practice, holy shit, like that will change so much for your business, because people will resonate with the transformation and the results and they'll be like, yeah, I get now what you actually sell. Yeah. And they want to buy that. And you're right, Sharon, action is absolutely key. All right, so far we've gone through the common mistakes that are holding you back, the clarity on what you're actually selling, and understanding where you need to shift your messaging, okay, in order for you to make more consistent sales. Now I want to talk about sales in general. So when you think about sales, and I want you to tell me in the comments, when you think about sales in your business right now, how do you currently feel? Are you like A, I hate sales? Are you B, I feel awkward and wish it was easier? Or are you C, I feel confident with my sales process? Cool. I've got some awkward people in the room. That's okay. It's all good. So, for those of you who feel awkward and wish it was easier, have you learnt the skill of sales? Have you learnt sales? Because sales is a process. And if you've never learnt it, please don't judge yourself thinking that you should be fucking great at it. Because if you've never learnt it, how can you expect yourself to be great at it? It's like saying to a child, like, why can't you speak Japanese? And they've only ever grown up in an English household. Like, you can't expect them to be like great at fluent in Japanese if they've never learned it. It's the same thing with sales, right? So Caitlin's like, yes, learning it with me now, which is awesome. Amanda said, I'm getting better, moving towards confidence. Love that. Alex said, learned it years ago and hate it. So why? Why do you hate it? Right. So often I have this so much, and I love working with clients that come to me like, I hate sales because I want to change that for you. Because sales is one of those things that once you learn the skill and then you put it into practice, but you find an authentic way to put it into practice for your business because it's got to feel good for you. Now, sometimes sales is taught in multiple different ways. Sales often in the past has been taught in a real masculine way. And so if you see like the marketing bros online, like when they salespeople online, they often teach it in a real masculine way, which is shame, fear, and judge, and make people feel shit in order to fix the problem, right? That's gross. We don't want to do that anymore. And people are so savvy to this now. They literally like run a mile from that. So that's a real masculine way of selling. And I don't mean men selling. I mean a masculine way of selling because we're focusing on the negative elements. We want to start focusing on our feminine ways of selling. So when we sell with our feminine energy, we rely on relationships and connection, and we trust our intuition to not sell when we have not got permission. I'm going to teach you this, okay? Sales is a process and it's a skill that you need to learn, especially in today's day and age in business, because in order for you to have consistent income in your business, sales is a skill that you need to learn in order for you to feel confident. You only become pushy, salesy, or sleazy, which is what everyone fears they are being. We only do that when we don't build invitational sales into your process. Okay. When we're not inviting people to the next phase of the sales process, and we're telling and we're presenting and we're pushing, that's when it becomes salesy or sleazy. And I'm going to talk you through the 7 stages so you understand this. Sales is an integral part of your business in success in business, and you can no longer avoid learning the skill. Otherwise, you'll rely on salesy, icky tactics like pressure and scarcity and urgency and shame and fear, right? We're tearing people down instead of building them up. The feminine way is building people up, right? We don't want to tear people down. We want to give people hope. We want to give people possibility, and that it is possible to change and create a result. Now, the piece that I love to play into here or teach my clients with is staying in integrity when you sell. Because people have become, they're so done with it. Like we just don't want to be sold to and then not actually get the result delivered. We don't want to be pushed in, pressured into buying, because then what happens is we get buyer's remorse. And I don't ever want to work with a client that regrets buying into my programs. Like that's the worst way to start a coaching relationship, right? Now, when we rely on value to sell, we can do it in an ethical and authentic way, right? When we're using sales tactics, we're selling inauthentically and we're selling unethically, right? We're pushing and pressuring. When we're in a headspace of abundance and not scarcity, and we're not freaking out about where our next client's going to come from, we're selling with desperation, we can sell authentically and genuinely. When we have this mindset, sales is an invitation and it's a conversation. Okay. It's part of your service that shows customers what to expect from your paid offerings. And when you serve before you sell, a customer more than happily wants to give you their money, right? And there's a equal value exchange when you're giving them something of value and they're then giving value back with money. Sales is an invitation for a transformation. So we let it be this, and it's just a conversation. You can approach a sales conversation or a sales promotion with a headspace of like, this is an opportunity for someone to transform if they choose. We're not pressuring, they choose. All right. We're giving people sovereignty that they get to decide what they want for their lives. We're giving them all the information and they can choose. We're supporting them in the decision, but we're not pressuring. Okay. So there are 7 steps to a sales process that support someone to make the right decision for them. But sales only becomes salesy, pushy, or sleazy if you skip the first 5 steps. And this is what people do. They skip the first 5 steps and they go straight into presenting their offer. They're like, here, you want to buy? Here's my stuff. Buy from me. Ever had that before? Where they're like, they don't even ask you a question or don't even listen to what you have to say. And they're like, here you go, right? That's where it becomes salesy, pushy, or sleazy. But when sales is done right, it can be an enjoyable process that is something that you can be excited about because you're getting to work with a client that possibly wants to create have the transformation that you sell, right? It can be fun. So here are the 7 steps. And I know that I'm possibly might go a few minutes over time, but I want to go through this with you and then we'll dive into a little bit more depth tomorrow. So there are 7 steps. First one is building rapport. Another way to put that would be connection. If you don't have a connection with the person that you're selling to, then they're not going to trust you. They're not going to want to divulge information in order to get you to the point where you have the solution that they have the problem to. They have the problem of. We want to build rapport. We want to set up the expectation, right? That at some point throughout this journey together over the next 3 days, I'm going to share with you an opportunity to continue to learn from me. And if you feel confident and you want to actually do that, that's amazing. I would love to work with you, right? Set up the expectation that I'm going to give you my all over the next 3 days. I'm going to be here to answer your questions. I'm going to be here to support you every step of the way as we go through this. And at some point, because I am in business and I do have something to sell and I can help you, I'm going to present an offer that may be the right fit for you. And if that's all, if that is amazing, that's so wicked. If it's not, it's okay. I hope that you've learned something from me, right? Set up the expectation. The next piece is discovery. The discovery is where you uncover the problem, uncover how it's affecting them. And you highlight the ways that it's showing up for them and how it's impacting other areas of their lives. And we're really getting clear on the problem they're experiencing because you need to know, you're pre-qualifying. You need to know, is my service, is my offering going to fit their needs? And if the answer is no, because if you do that discovery and you basically come up with the information going, well, actually, I don't think I'm the right fit, then you don't sell. We don't sell. We listen to our intuition and we stop, right? Then we talk about objections. We go through objections and uncover the objections. Now, you as the business owner should know the objections your ideal client has. There are the normal ones, time, money, and ability that we need to address. But sometimes specific to your service, you might have some other specific objections your ideal clients have. So like it could be if you help them with tech, they might be really not really great with tech. And that could be a hesitation for them to buy. So there might be specific hesitation. So we want to address objections before we then gain buy-in. So buy-in is where we want to make sure that they're ready. Like, are they ready? Are they wanting to work on this? Is this the right time for them to work on this? Because if the answer is no, we again don't sell, right? Then we present our offer. If we've got all yeses and we've invited them to the next phase and we've guided them through this process, then we know that our service is going to be the right fit for them. Then we go, would you like me to share with you how I work with my clients? I'm asking for permission. Yeah. This changes the game. It allows the client to be in control and not feel pressured and pushed. And if they say no, that's great. We let them go and we say, amazing, here's something you can go work on because obviously you were interested in what it is that we're talking about. So maybe I've got other things that I can give you for free that you can go work on. And when you're ready, come back. Yeah. Or if the answer is yes, then like, great, let me share with you how I work with my clients. And then you present your offer and you gain the commitment and share with them their next steps. So there's 7 steps, but often what people go is they go, I build a little bit of rapport and we go straight to present the offer. And then people are like, hey, wait a minute, I wasn't even here to buy, right? Like, so we want to be conscious that we're supporting our clients through the decision-making process. Now, this can be used in everything from a sales page, a social media post, to a social media campaign, a marketing campaign, a sales call, a webinar, a workshop, like anything, anywhere you sell, you can use this process. And if you follow this process, a client feels supported rather than pushed, yeah, or sold to. So acknowledging that there is 7 steps, and if we learn them and we are guided through understanding what we need to be communicating and asking through these processes, it helps support the process feeling confident, feeling easeful for you, but also really enjoyable for a customer. Because has there been a time where you've bought something that you were excited to buy? Yeah, and you wanted it to be an enjoyable process, right? There might have been times where it was a shit process and you're like, oh, I just really wanted to buy that. Like I'm in the process of publishing my book and I had conversations with a whole bunch of publishers last year. And my gosh, the sales processes were horrible. I was like, do you even give a shit about what my book is about? Like, you haven't even asked me questions about my book, and here you go selling to me hardcore. Or even like recently, I've got an investment property that I was renting out, and I was looking for a new what do you call it, tenant manager. And I had a conversation with one dude that was hardcore selling, and he was like, what do I got to say to you in order for you to convert today? I was like, what? He was like, well, what's important to you? What do I need to say? What's the number? What's the number? And I was like, I actually want to know whether you're going to get the right tenant and actually take care of my property. Like it's got nothing to do with a number. And he was like, oh, like, and then this other guy I spoke with, one of the first questions he asked me was, what's your biggest fear with renting out your property? And I was like, oh, that's a bloody great question. I was hooked. And then I ended up working with him. So he took the time to not only ask me really great questions to uncover what I was really wanting and what I was looking for and what was important to me. Then he explained the whole process in depth and how he works and how he overcomes all the objections that I was having. And I was like, far out, man, you've sold me just on your sales process. Like I teach sales and this is amazing. So like allowing, when you learn this skill, it allows you to have the customer feel supported and nurtured through the process rather than sold to. Make sense? Awesome. All right. So we're come to time, and I was going to dive into a little bit more regarding to objections, but I might just build that into tomorrow's session. So I'm going to just skip a couple of slides here for you. So I was going to share with you a little video from
The
TikTok.
drawing for me was the sales module. I didn't really know how to do sales, never been taught it. So I was very much just winging it. And I knew this mastermind would tick that box. But it became very clear from the beginning that all of the modules were going to be very beneficial. For example, I've been working on my mindset for a fair while now, but Christine helped me uncover some of those blocks that were stopping me from moving forward. In fact, it still amazes me how quickly Christine gets to know you and your business. It was very easy to have access to Christine throughout the mastermind. So
I just wanted to share, sorry, I was trying to pause that because it goes for a little bit longer, but I just wanted to share like the first piece there where she says like she hadn't learned sales before. And then once she learned sales, she actually became really confident. And she actually had to get to a point where she had to stop taking sales calls because she converted too much. And I was like, great, this is awesome. This is a problem, a good problem to have. But beforehand, it's just acknowledging, like, as I'm sharing with you sales process, like it's okay if it's overwhelming or if it's new to you, or if you've hated it before, maybe you've only been taught a certain way, but there is a way to actually enjoy sales. So hopefully this has helped you uncover where some barriers or blocks in order for you to create consistent sales in your business. Because when it comes to hitting six figures, having that sales process in place is everything. So everything we covered off today, hopefully I'd love for you to keep working on that problem solution outcome and start playing with that. And then even if you want to share a post or an Instagram or anything like that and you want me to look at it, like just send me a DM. I want to check it out. But yeah, I hope you've gained some real insight into the first key pieces that we've discovered in today's session. Tomorrow, we're going to be diving into mindset. So unlocking the mindset shifts that you need to stay focused, confident, and resilient. The connection between money mindset and sales that will skyrocket your conversions. And we're also going to talk about your offers. So how we communicate the value of your offers so you feel really confident going out and promoting it, because we want to not only attract really high premium clients, and we want to stop undercharging and owning our worth, but we need to get clear on how we communicate value, because that's what people buy. People are buying the outcome, the result, and that's where value lies. And we can often get caught up in just selling inclusion. So I want to talk about that tomorrow. So same time tomorrow. If you have any questions at all, feel free to stick around. I'm going to do some Q&A, but I know that we've come to time. So if you need to rush off, feel free. Remember to share your takeaways on social media and tag me in it. And then I'm going to share the winners of day one tomorrow. And so feel free to jump into the Facebook group and ask questions if you haven't got time to stick around now, but I'm going to open the floor. So if anyone does have any questions with anything we've covered so far, please feel free to either turn your mic on or pop it in the chat, and I'll answer any questions that you have. Yeah, even if you want to let me know what your biggest takeaway was from today, I'd love to hear it. Thanks, Sharon. It's awesome. Yeah. Any questions? Or have I already like filled your brain with so much stuff that you're like, oh God.
Mike, can I pop in?
Yeah, go for it.
Hey, so I guess going back to the sales process, and me hating it, I guess the reason I hate it so much is because I feel like the way I need to approach my clients is basically cold calls, and I can't stand that. Also, I've freelance, but I've been working in an office and everyone hates that. I know it's disrupting your day. It's time consuming. you go to them if you need them, right? You don't want someone cold calling. Like I should be clarifying that, which is why I had issues fighting the problem of my clients. I don't work for the end user. I work for architects, interior designers,
Yeah.
builders, mainly builders.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, awesome.
yeah, but um, yeah, that means like they're busy. They're men also a lot of the time, and they're quite, arrogant, and it's
Yeah.
a man's world. Then you step into, and they're like, "Look, come on, I'm busy. I'm going to site. Ciao."
Thanks, Vanessa.
Which I understand, don't get me wrong, but I don't know how, I don't know where to find them. I don't know how to approach them. What's the system there? Social media is probably not really where they're at. Some of them might be, I don't know, I'm crap at social media, so that's my excuse anyway.
There's
But
two things that highlight to me straight up for me for what
yeah,
you've shared. One is the thoughts that you're having around the cold calling that's preventing you from showing up in the way that you really want to show up. And so shifting that to begin with will allow you to approach the cold calls from a different perspective. So
okay.
you're actually helping them in so
Yeah,
many ways, right?
yes,
And so they don't know that you can help them unless you get in front of them, unless you tell them that you can help them. And so one of the biggest things that we can do is actually shift our perspective around cold calling and go like, how can I just be an option? Like I'm putting my hat in the ring and being like, how can I be an option? And how can I break through the noise of other cold calls? So one of the things that I would even suggest being in the masculine space is that we want to be really upfront. So be like, hey, this is Alex from such and such. This is actually a sales call, but I want to touch base with you regarding this because you're missing out on this, this, and this. So you want to like cut through the noise so you get their attention. If you're kind of like transparent right from the get-go and setting up those expectations early on, they're more likely to be like, oh, okay. Like this is a sales call, but I'm only going to take 2 minutes of your time, and you're probably going to want me on your roster because you need us as a designer. Like
mm,
so something like that that just breaks the ice. Because if we're going into it with an uncomfortable place of like, oh, can we chat about it? I'm feeling like a little bit awkward, and like they already get their back up, right? So I think when doing cold calls specifically, what's shifted so much is like how you can be more transparent right from the get-go to grab their attention, and then they're more likely to give you a moment or two to talk, right? And then we shift it straight to them. So be like, what is the biggest challenge you're having with hiring interior designers right now? We need to
yeah,
ask some really powerful questions right from the get-go. So they're like, oh, she gives a shit. She wants to know exactly how, you know, how we want someone to be different or how we want to work with people. They're going to listen and they're going to pay it. They're going to like remember that from you because you're
yeah,
going to be different to every other person cold calling. So it's almost like you need to like tap into a little bit of your masculine side to begin with to go in that way. And then you can soften and like bring them along the journey of the sales process, right? So there's that, just shifting a mindset, like recognizing that you are helping them. They're going to be only working with people they've worked with in the past. And if they're average and you're going to be different, like you need to pinpoint how are you different? What do they need to know about you in order for them to be like, oh, actually, maybe I should consider working with someone else? We've got
yeah,
to cut through the noise. The other thing that comes to mind for me is how you're positioning yourself as the go-to person for them.
yeah. I'm not at the moment. I don't know.
So that would be really good to start pinpointing of like,
Mm,
how am I different? Why should they work with me over other people? Just doing your own work around this of like,
mm,
how am I different? Why should they work with me other than anybody else? And if you can start to like own that and then start positioning yourself as the go-to for architects, right? Like if you
mm,
start positioning yourself as that, then when you're emailing, when you're cold calling, when you're creating any content on social media or even on your website, you're like, oh, I'm the go-to interior designer for these commercial properties because of this, this, and this. They're going to be like, oh, okay. Because the majority of the time, most interior designers are so broad, so it's such generalists that they just don't know that you're the right fit,
yeah.
right? I've worked with so many interior designers in the past where they literally just won't choose a niche until I work with them,
Mm,
or they're so hesitant to come forward and actually say like, this is actually how I'm good. This is how I'm
yeah.
different. So if you can pinpoint those, it'll actually help with your sales calls, but it'll actually help you get seen.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool. All
Have a think
right.
about it overnight and then come back tomorrow and feel free to get clarification on what you come up with.
Awesome. Thanks for that today, Christine. It was really
My
good.
pleasure. My pleasure. It's lovely to meet you. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.